everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Pro Dental Podcast. Today we're joined by Joel Mannix. He's the head of dental at Christie & Co. Joel, how are you doing this morning?
Hi James, thanks for having me on today. Yeah, well, sun's out, which is a nice change in the UK at the moment.
Oh, no, absolutely. Well, you say that, it's overcast down here, but, this summer's been very stop-start, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly. It hasn't been much of a summer at all, really. So,
But hey, it's good to have, kind of something. Obviously, it's that time of year, with it being summer. Christie have just released their annual dental market review,
yep.
2024 edition. So we're here to talk about that today. But before we dig into it, obviously you're quite new to the role, so congratulations first of all.
Thank you.
Could you
Appreciate
kind of,
it.
I guess, introduce yourselves to our viewers and listeners, and kind of let them know a bit about your background?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So, my name's Joel Mannix. I am the new head of dental here at Christie & Co. I am based up in Scotland. You'll probably pick up from my accent that I'm not a Scotland native. So I've been in the country for about 11 years now. I joined Christie & Co. in 2018. And as you just mentioned there, I was made head of dental at the start this year. I sort of cover a team of about 20 agents, valuers, and support staff up and down the country. We cover Scotland, England, Northern Ireland, and Wales. Just to give you a bit of an idea about activity and where our position is in the market, last year we advised on, valued, or sold over 908 dental practices. That was with an aggregate value of over £750 million.
So that's, so obviously big numbers there. Brilliant. So obviously, your dental market review is pretty extensive, and given the numbers you've just mentioned there, you've obviously got a fair idea of just how the market is performing. What are the key takeaways you've kind of found this year?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, the biggest takeaway for us, James, is the independent market is absolutely dominating sort of transactions. We have, through our research in the report, it shows that 81% of practices that we sold so far this year have been to first-time buyers or independent buyers. So, those with only a couple of practices. Over only 13% of those practices that we've sold were actually sold to corporates. We include a corporate as somebody with over 30 practices. So I think that just goes to show that the independent market is absolutely booming at the moment. A couple other points is that the overall number of practices in the UK remains pretty steady, although there have been some closures, some obviously highly publicised ones, but actually with the rise in the new squat practices, and that was due to the sort of 2020 changes to the use of classes order, we're sort of seeing that number pretty steady across the board. I think the other thing which is sort of really stood out to us is the sort of shift in market dynamics. Traditionally, sort of the last sort of 18 months, we've gone through a period of corporate divestments. And I guess traditionally that was always sort of viewed as quite a negative thing in the market. But, there was a bit of a certain stigma around that. But actually, like the industry's perception has drastically changed on that. Actually, these practices are now really highly sought after. We have at Christie & Co. sold 74 corporate divestments so far, just in the last 18 months, and they're really, really sought after, especially for independent buyers, independent dentists, I should say, that would be working within the practice. They're already in the region. There might have even been an associate at the practice themselves, but I think that again just goes to show how much the independents are sort of dominating the market at the moment.
Well, what do you think the reason is for kind of their corporate divestments at such a scale?
Yeah, good question. I think that realistically, the biggest problem in dentistry at the moment is recruitment. Obviously, we're going to come on the interest rates and things like that as well, inflation, etc. But actually, trying to find dentists in particularly some of the more sort of rural or remote areas is proving really tricky. I should also point out that when I say recruitment, it's not just dentists. It's hygienists, therapists, and actually sort of quality dental staff as well. Practice managers and dental nurses. All of these sort of factors are contributing to the sort of corporate owners divesting their sort of group, I suppose, and then also sort of they would then go through a period of contraction, and then I dare say in the next sort of few months, years, etc., we'll start to see that sort of grow again. Divesting say X amount per year, but then buying another few quality practices as well. So they're just sort of tightening up their portfolio.
Excellent. And so with that corporate divestment and obviously the kind of growth of, I suppose, independents and first time buyers, I mean, would you say that creates more of a healthy kind of competition in the market?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that particularly post-sale conditions have become more prevalent than ever before. I think that there was always that attachment of, well, a corporate can come in and a corporate can only buy a practice of a certain size or type or whatever it might be. But actually, what we've seen is that, okay, as far as the post-sale conditions we're achieving are probably better than that we were achieving before, because it, it might be all of the money up front, or actually, if it's not that, then actually it's principals being able to leave on day one, which has become more attractive as well. So I think that those are all sort of factors that are adding to sort of rise of the independent buyer.
So obviously, yeah, you mentioned the past 18 months, kind of things have been very turbulent in the market. Obviously, with the kind of rise of interest rates quite steeply. Obviously, they've maintained that. At the time of recording this, the Bank of England have just announced their first kind of drop in interest rates for 4.5 years nearly. But obviously, figures are still much higher than they were 2 years ago. I mean, how has this affected things in the market?
Yeah. So what we've found is that there was almost like a two-tier market, if you like, where any practice that was priced over a certain amount, there were less buyers for. So obviously, we were less competition, therefore we were probably struggling with some of those practices. However, I know particularly on some of the corporate divestment work we did, we had a lot of buyers that were it was a much more competitive process, which obviously in turn meant that we're achieving not only asking price, but well over asking price. Obviously, interest rates are having less of an effect on that when you say only looking to borrow, say under £300,000. But I think that does go and show that the competition is there. The interest from buyers for practices is there. We have in our report, Christie Finance, our sister company, has done a survey, and it kind of revealed that 86% of dental funders or banks that surveyed do have a really positive outlook for the year ahead. I think that also has sort of shown up in the interest that we're receiving on practices more recently. The dental market continues to be a prime sector for lenders as well. I don't think that they've ever sort of stepped away from that, but it's just, getting the sort of, I guess, buyers to say, well, actually, yes, interest rates are quite high, but I think that this is the way I want to move forward, and I want to own my own dental practice. And again, to my point earlier on in our conversation, 81% of practices have been sold to a first time buyer this year alone. So
I suppose, I mean, because dentistry it almost feels like a cliche to say at this point, but obviously is a safe industry, right? I guess people are always going to need dental care.
yeah, it's a green light sector, especially from a lender's perspective, and there will always be transactions. So, excuse me, there has been a bit of a reset in the market, if you like. We went through a really sort of buoyant period between say 2020 to 2022. Obviously, last year that dropped off slightly. However, where we sort of view ourselves now is where we were in the market in sort of 2019. Even some of the post-sale conditions we're seeing now are similar, well, pretty much like for like of what we saw in 2019. So it's all really positive from that perspective.
Oh, brilliant! I mean, that's it's almost quite surprising, really, when you consider the interest rate situation. I mean, would you say in regards to interest rates, it's now sort of almost like a new normal? I mean, do you see it coming back down to where it was a couple of years ago, or was that really kind of a bit of a blip, a bit too low?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'd hate to make any sort of predictions like that, James, to be honest with you. But I think that what we're seeing is that buyers are adapting to it more. Sorry, dental practice owners are adapting to it more. That comes into consideration, and I think that obviously then sort of leads on to also from our perspective the transactions that we're achieving as well. I mean, for example, the average EBITDA multiple that we're achieving on an own operated practice between 2023 and sort of to date, I suppose, was 3.4 times, which is good. And then actually with the associate led on the same with the same numbers is about 7.7, which is still high for us. Obviously, there's a lot of different factors that have to come into that. Obviously, price, location. Type of dentistry, size of practice, etc. But yeah, I think that the pricing trends are going to continue to go that way. So is it the new normal? Yeah, I'd like to think so. I think just people are a little bit more educated on how they have to proceed forward. That we're also seeing a lot more due diligence come through, particularly from banks and lenders as well. They really want to know how a practice is operating pretty much up until the day of completion, if you like. They really want to know if there's any sort of changes and shifts. So it's very important for our clients that, particularly when selling, to try and maintain that as best as possible, really. So.
Brilliant. And just, I mean, to take things back to the obviously the dental market review itself, this year you added real emphasis on the operational review and sentiment section.
Yeah.
So why was this important to kind of include? Well, I mean, obviously overall, but also kind of to put a real focus on how the profession itself is kind of viewing things.
Yeah, I think that, as I said, last year there was a real dip in sentiment. Sort of it felt slightly negative. I mean, so this was probably our biggest survey that we've done, which we reached out to over 35,000 dental professionals. And I think that the biggest takeaway for us was that more feel positive than negative about the sector, especially going into 2024 to 2025, which I think is fantastic, really. Um, there was a couple of things that we picked out on that which kind of surprised, well, not surprised, but were quite interesting from our perspective. I mean, pretty much this whole sentiment agreed that the therapist-led NHS model would increase over the next 12 months, whereby a higher proportion agreed, strongly agreed, much higher proportion strongly agreed than strongly disagreed. I think the other thing as well is that about 60% of people that we surveyed felt that digital dentistry was going to be the future of, certainly in the forefront of the future growth. And then obviously, as I mentioned before, James, the biggest factor in dentistry affecting us at the moment is the recruitment. So actually 59% feel that the ORE entrance exams providing additional resources from dentists is actually going to help, particularly in the NHS sectors. Obviously it's a simple case of supply and demand, really. If there's more associates and dental professionals coming into the industry, I think that that's going to take a lot of pressure off across the whole board, even if that is only going to be focused on, say, NHS or whatever it might be. So.
Absolutely. I mean, what we'll do is, I say in the episode description, we'll include a link to the dental market review, so anybody watching or listening can find that and have a look. I mean, it's very interesting reading. I mean, is there anything else you would like people to know before they take a look at it, or that they should know going in?
Yeah, I think that we're in a rapidly changing market. I think that particularly, just as you mentioned before, interest rates dropping to 5% for the first time in 4.5 years. It is something that we have to keep a close eye on. Obviously we are very active in the dental market, so particularly with our RICS accredited valuers as well. Not only are we a transaction is Christie transacting practices, but we're also valuing practices as well. So we get to see both sides of it. we feel like our data is top notch. It's fantastic. It's right up to date. So I think that every year we go through this in summertime, and every year it's different. So I think it's just important to keep reading, really.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, I say everybody watching, listening, please do take a look. And Joel, I thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to speak with you, and especially during what's been a very busy week for you.
Thanks very much, James. I really appreciate your time today.